let's take a look at training and development. Training is an effort to increase the knowledge, skills, and abilities of employees and managers so they can better do their jobs. Employees can begin new jobs with the expectation that they'll receive sufficient training, but this is seldom the case, at least in terms of training in any formal sense. Development consists of efforts to improve future performance by providing skills to be used in subsequent assignments. Development increases staff potential, assists in succession planning, and is tied to strategic organizational development, ensuring that agencies have employees with relevant skills. In recent years, learning has been emphasized as a third category. The new focus on learning stems from the recognition that participating in training and development activities does not necessarily equate with actual learning, mastering, and application of KSAs that employees need. Learning organizations are organizations that have recognizable processes in place for the ongoing assessment of what they are doing and how they're doing it, and whether and how they might do it better. The use of training and development varies across these organizations. Training and development is also associated with talent management and leadership development. Training and development can also be part of strategic efforts to attract and retain talented workers and managers who are looking for career growth. Employees and managers who seek ways to increase their value to the organization will find training and development relevant. These principles of learning are relevant to both individual and group efforts. Adult learning theory emphasizes the extensive experience of adults, a preference for active participation, an interest in self-improvement and problem solving, and the exercise of some control in learning styles and methods. Consistent with these principles, motivation, relevance, transference, repetition, and active participation, underlying principles and feedback and positive reinforcement are discussed in turn next. A key principle in successful training and development, motivation and training, holds that people learn better when they're eager to acquire new knowledge, skills, and abilities. Managers and trainers must explain how training or the intended organizational learning and development effort relates to a specific task or problem at hand. When people are unclear about the relevance of what they're doing, some will lose motivation, and few will be able to take advantage of whatever skills and knowledge are imparted. Most people do not immediately retain complex information and use new skills. The rule of 3 states that people hear things only after they've been said 3 times, and the rule of 7 states that people must practice something 7 times to master it. Most adults are active learners who prefer to learn through participation in learning processes. Adults prefer to participate in discussions about the meaning of concepts and how they might be correctly applied rather than sit passively listening to an instructor talk. Repetition and multiple examples increase opportunities for active involvement, especially when applications occur out of class and training is scheduled over multiple sessions, allowing reflection on what's been learned. People also experience learning plateaus or periods during which they must fully absorb and assimilate newly presented material before they're able to learn more. One implication of this is that employees should first learn skills that solve problems that are relatively easy before moving into progressively more difficult and complex matters. Overlearning is the assimilation of material so that it becomes second nature. That is, so that new KSAs are completely integrated into an individual's repertoire. Overlearning is an important aspect of training when high levels of performance mastery are needed. People are more effective at their jobs when they can understand why the methods they're using work, but some people can do little more than repeat the models or procedures given to them. To know why something works is to understand the principles that lie behind it, and knowledge of these principles opens the door to finding new applications as well as problem solving when something goes wrong. The effort to gain a working knowledge of the principles underlying higher order tasks is challenging to some workers and managers, taxing their ability to be creative and imagine new applications. Increasingly, training techniques emphasize the development of insight, understanding of principles, and creativity in seeking new applications. Providing adequate guidance to workers and managers to develop these skills is one of several current challenges. Training and development serves a variety of sometimes strategic purposes that support performance, risk management, and human capital purposes. On the job training, known as OTJ, is perhaps the most common training technique, and not what most people associated with training. On the job training is not sink or swim for new employees, nor is an employer giving an employee a manual and a name of a supervisor to contact if there's a problem. Coaching involves assigning an experienced employee to help other employees to master their job situations. This approach is usually regarded as a cost-effective way of transferring essential job skills and knowledge, although part of the appeal lies in the fact that it seldom requires a separate budget. Existing staff are simply asked to supply training as temporary additional duty. Although it may seem obvious that managers can improve the effectiveness of OTJ by carefully selecting and training experienced employees to fulfill the instructor role, they don't always do so. Mentoring is a developmental approach through which an inexperienced employee learn and develop their career potential through ongoing, periodic dialogue and coaching from senior managers. Whereas the issues that are dealt with in OTJ are usually fairly technical and immediate, mentors often assist in dealing with long-term goals, complex skill development, and professional socialization. In-house seminars and presentations are more widely associated with the idea of training for many people than are the approaches discussed above. Web-based learning is increasingly used in employee training and continuing education. Simulation allows managers and employees to replicate on-the-job experiences without disruption of ongoing work processes. Advanced academic degrees are increasingly required for management positions, so many employees hoping to advance in their careers return to universities. Determining what training and how much training often begins with an assessment process. The purpose of organizational learning is to get agencies, departments, and individuals thinking about what and how they're doing, and what and how they could or should be doing differently or better. Organizational learning concerns these processes. The public hopes that public organizations will respond quickly to change and be forward-looking and efficient in their ways, and is highly disappointed when agencies do not meet these standards. But training strategies are seldom concerned with these purposes. Training is not expected to lead to the redefinition of a person's job tasks, though information could lead to discussion. Much has been written on organizational learning, and the academic lineage is deep. At issue are 1. Encouraging individuals to be willing and able to see things that could be done differently and better, and 2. Getting buy-in from different groups of people in the organization to support change. The first issue involves spark of creativity. This is not only about finding a better solution to a current problem, say an overburdened delivery process, but also about suggesting new policies or services that are cost-effective or attractive in some other way. The second issue is getting support from one's own unit, higher levels of management, and rival departments. New ideas often are called into question when something's about existing goals, methods, or policies and assumptions are made. In recent years, a number of organizational practices and policies have evolved that encourage departments and work units to engage in learning, creativity, and change. A very simple and effective approach is asking employees as individuals and as groups to submit ideas for improving their own work, that of their work units, or that of the agency. Organizations are still experimenting with different ways of getting new ideas and initiatives from their employees and managers. Any system is only as good as its leaders, so how leaders and managers are selected and evaluated matters greatly in determining the nature of the organization. A learning organization needs managers and leaders who support learning and the search for improvement that it implies. A lot has been written on managing change. Change is to be expected and ongoing. Which organization today can afford not to constantly be changing in some way? Listed below are the major elements of managing change. Having insightful analysis about forces prompting change and organizational strategy, being clear about the nature and scope of change, involving or consulting people and addressing their concerns at any point, wisely choosing feasible operational targets, and wisely choosing those who are tasked with implementing change. Further, declaring and celebrating successes, adjusting and learning from initial efforts, and having plans for dealing with setbacks, learning curves, and resistance. Well, this list builds on the lessons learned from change management. In learning organizations, many new ideas are supported by the strategic purposes of public agencies, but will not always lead to major changes in broader purposes. Organizations make a lot of small changes too. Agencies believe that an emphasis on values and ethics is consistent with building up a modern and desirable workplace. Negative reports of personnel being caught up in unethical conduct tarnish the images of organizations. Ethics is obviously difficult to shape, let alone control. Ethics training ensures that both new and existing employees are aware of important laws and practices in relation to, say, gift taking, conflict of interest, fraud, and harassment, can be made mandatory with employees required to either attend workshops or complete online training. Beyond the general topics, employers can also tailor some ethics training to special circumstances or tasks of their employees. The list of possible ethics training topics include contractors, travel, gifts, misuse of resources, employment, conflicts, property, harassment, hiring, fraud, and more. Ethics training also reinforces retention and performance strategies by emphasizing the value basis of the modern workplace. Rather than looking at ethics training as a panacea or silver bullet, managers should view it as one of several tools that they use, along with role modeling, appraisals, and feedback to instill or change ethical conduct. Although ethics training is useful and needed, we should not overstate its effectiveness. No amount of training can eliminate human folly and misconduct.